back with the second live stream for tonight. But this time I'm on Assetto Corsa, and I did something that I tried to do on Monday, which was give some impressions of the Ferrari 50th anniversary, or sorry, 70th anniversary pack. Not 50th anniversary, sorry, I don't know where that came from. But I did try to do this on Monday, and then I forgot it was Monday Night Racing, so I wanted to do that instead. So I stopped the live stream halfway in, but this time I do plan to actually drive all the cars and give you my impressions of them. Starting with the Ferrari 250 GTO, and I'll drive all of them at Mugello, which is it's an Italian track, very Ferrari based. Just want to see if my microphone is actually working, because a lot of times it doesn't seem to like to work. Recently it's been giving me some hard times, so I want to make sure it's working before I move on here. I'll check that by actually watching my own live stream. Alright, so I see that the microphone is working, so without further ado, let's get started. Starting with the Ferrari 250 GTO, which, if you didn't know this already, this car is extremely expensive in today's money. Because it's a classic car, and a very famous one too, it's extremely expensive. I think somebody picked one of these up at auction for like 30 million. So basically you can forget you're like in hypersports, you can forget your Lamborghini Veninos. This is like multiple times more money because it's a classic car. I mean, I don't really know all that much about it, to be completely honest, but I know it does have a V12. And it was made in the 60s, and I don't really know that much about it, to be completely honest. Right now I don't really feel like looking it up, but I will drive it around a little bit. I'll tell you what I think of it. We're up to 8,000 RPM, which is pretty crazy. Where's my field of view set at? Alright, it's properly set. That's good. Yeah, I forgot, the steering is really light in this car. It doesn't have very much directional control. It's really hard to control where the car exactly goes. Kind of trying to adjust my volume right now as I'm driving because it's kind of loud. Real oversteery. It's interesting going from GT Sport to this. The force feedback is a little more intuitive, I think, in this game. It's a little more detailed, I think, is probably the better word for it. But the car overall, compared to a lot of cars on the Assetto Corsa, the steering's real dead in the center in comparison. It doesn't have quite as much accuracy, the car, but it is an older car, so for a car that's made in the 1960s, I think it's pretty good. And it feels pretty light too. It doesn't feel like a super heavy car. It doesn't feel like a big car either, which I don't like cars that feel really big. I'm not a big fan of big cars. I like smaller cars. One of those people that's kind of into, I shouldn't say I'm really into hatchbacks, but I like smaller vehicles. This does feel like a smaller car, and I like that. It feels pretty nimble too, but it doesn't, I shouldn't say it feels accurate, because the steering kind of feels a little, it doesn't feel super sharpened, but I shouldn't really say the car feels super up on its toes either. But it is a good car. But I will say it, I would be really scared to drive one of these things in real life. And I do respect all the owners that do actually drive these, because there are those owners out there. But these cars are so expensive that even Top Gear couldn't afford the insurance for one of these if they crashed it. So Jeremy Clarkson couldn't drive it, which is, whoa, which is insane. Considering, like, Top Gear's one of the most watched British car shows in the UK, and maybe even in the world. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Considering they couldn't afford the insurance for this car, it's pretty insane. This car... I'm gonna do one more lap here. Sounds pretty cool. I like the sounds. That's one thing I think they really did do a good job on with this pack in general, is the audio for the cars is really good. Like, and I can't say that about all the cars on the Assetto Corsa. Like, the LaFerrari, I was really unimpressed with the engine quality, the sound quality of the engine. Because I know in real life that it does not, like, actually sound like that. But it sounds really, I shouldn't say it sounds unrealistic, it just doesn't sound very good, actually. It's probably the main word to use. It's... Where was I? This car still feels like an old car, but yet it kind of feels sort of modern in some respects. It does feel kind of drifty sometimes. Actually, a lot of times it feels very drifty, but kind of like some modern cars do. But the steering, like I said, is also kind of... it's a little dead in the center. Now, I know there's a lot of aspects missing from the game from this car in real life. For instance, it doesn't have a synchro mesh gearbox. I mean, at least I don't think it does. I saw somebody double clutching one of these. And obviously in the game you don't have to do that. I definitely don't have to do that because I'm not even using the clutch pedal right now. I don't actually have an H pattern shifter, but I don't have to worry about that. Obviously, I'm also double footing up because I don't have an H pattern shifter, and this is normally how I drive. And it is faster. But overall, this car did a 225.5, which, can I be honest, is kind of slow, but obviously I think it probably could do better than that. But it is, I mean, this is an older car, so for its time, I'm sure it was a really quick car. But the next car I'm going to drive is the Ferrari 312/67, which I even know less about this car. So I think a lot of the stuff you're going to hear about this is more my opinion about the way it drives, rather than the actual facts about the car. I don't really know all that much. It'd be cool to do some more research on it, but right now I don't really have time to do that, so it's probably just going to mainly be my review of how the car handles. Now, I could be wrong about this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this car was made in 1967 because it is a 312/67. I think the 67 is the year 1967, but I could be wrong about that. I mean, that would make sense. But it could be another number that I'm not aware of. Sounds pretty cool. Alright, let's get going here. This is quite a step up from the 250 GTO. This car. It's quite fast. I have to put a lot of steering input into the car though. It's got a lot more grip than the 250 GTO. It's also a lot lighter and it feels it too. Now in order to give you an idea how much steering input I'm having to put into this car to actually get it to go around a corner, I'm going to change the camera to this one. You really get to see, I mean, I have to move my hands around here. The car doesn't even want to go in a straight line exactly. Feels like it has a really short wheelbase, which is probably, well, it does have a short wheelbase. Oh gosh. It's really oversteery. Really twitchy. The short wheelbase definitely makes it quite an animal to drive, even for a car with like around 300-ish horsepower. But I think last time I did drive this, I did calculate it has the same power weight ratio practically as a Pagani Zonda R. And a little short wheelbase Formula car. Yeah, it's quite a handful to drive. Ooh, I'm off the track. Whoa. And these like open wheel Formula cars, I do like to use this cockpit view with the wheel because it adds a little bit more immersion to the experience, I think. This car's certainly a step up from the 250 GTO after driving that. Everything moves at you a lot quicker. And instead of going 140 into the first corner, we'll do 170. A little bit of rev matching there. The car has a lot of has auto blip, I think, on already. Put a lot of steering input into this car, man. Constantly counter steer as you're trying to steer into the corner. All at the same time. It's a tricky car to drive, but it is kind of fun once you get the hang of it. And it's very communicative. I can tell exactly what the car's going to do, but you have to do a lot. You got to do a lot at one time. I can't imagine driving this with an H pattern shifter. It's tiring enough, and it eats away your focus enough with the paddles. But with a pattern shifter, which this car actually had in real life, I can't imagine. That's another thing I really want to get is a TH8A shifter. It'd be kind of cool to see how hard this car actually was to drive with like an actual shifter and a clutch and everything, and trying to heel and toe downshift it and all that. It's hard to focus. Ooh, come on, break it. There we go. Don't break the car. Brake for the corner. It's amazing how good the force feedback is in this game still. I like it. This car is unbelievably fast for a car this old. I'm gonna do one more lap just to see what I can get out of it here, because that was not even that great of a lap. As old as this car is, it's a really good car. The funny about these old cars, you have no traction control or ABS to save you if you get it wrong. Like, I better just be silent for a little while here so I can do a hot lap. This lap is a 159.7, or 159.8, sorry. But this car is unbelievably fast. I mean, it's nearly as fast as a modern-day McLaren P1, which, I might say that's a road car, obviously, but this is a car from the 60s. I mean, considering that's insane. But I do want to move on to the next car, because I do want to keep this decently short. Do a couple laps from Mugello and pretty much any of these. But, what car to choose next? I was thinking we could stick with a sort of... I think we'll do the Ferrari 288 GTO. Because I'm kind of in a GTO mood right now. Now this GTO has 400 horsepower and weighs 1,160 kilograms. And it'll supposedly do over 305 kilometers an hour, which in miles per hour, I'm not 100% sure, but that's got to be close to 190. So it's a fast car. And supposedly it'll do 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds, which I guess for that time is pretty good, yeah. I mean, most cars nowadays will massively exceed that, but... Now, I don't really know that much about this car either, but I do know that it never really got to race in any racing series. At least that's what I'm pretty sure I heard. Because they changed the regulations at the last second and they couldn't use the car. At least I think, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but with the 288 GTO, it never really got to race in any proper racing series. And because of that, the car is a lot less expensive than the 250 GTO, but it's still an expensive car. It was still like, I don't know. But I heard it was still a lot of money, but it wasn't in the millions like the 250 was. But unlike the 250 GTO, this car is mid-engine and rear drive, and it's got a lot more power, so it is a lot faster of a car. I think I'm actually going to put what tires should I use? I could use semi-slicks because this is basically a racing car. I mean. Hold on for just a second. The clutch is still having issues. If I push my clutch pedal in, it sticks a little bit. So I gotta unplug it and then plug my pedals back in, which I just did, and then it'll calibrate and it'll rev the engine here. So, hang tight for just a second. Okay. So. Have the right field of view. I'll use this camera. Or, how's this? We'll use this. Got turbocharger. The pop-up headlights, that's cool. But it's kind of hard to correct some of the oversteer, as you just saw there. Yeah. Let's try that again. It's got a lot of turbo lag too, that's another thing about this car. Don't expect the same sort of grip that you get from the 312, the open wheel Formula car, because this is not a Formula 1 machine, but it certainly is a fast little mid-engine car. And the feedback is really good through the wheel. I can tell what the car is doing. It feels, doesn't, the steering ratio feels, you know, just quick enough, but not too quick. The car certainly feels a lot more stable than that Formula car. Ooh, I downshifted it too hard there. Ooh, I did a lot of damage to the engine too. See, is it actually smoking from the rear now? Nope. No smoke. Alright, we're good. We can keep going. The thing about these old cars is the gearing's weird. A second gear feels way too low because all its turbo lag is just immense. My tires are still not up to heat. Maybe I'll go back into the pits and adjust my tire pressures real quickly here. Whoa! This car's actually a massive handful. Probably because my tires won't heat up. Yeah, why would the tire pressures are way too high for this car. Like in the 458 Ferrari, I had them like down to like 23 and they were about good, which is like completely unrealistic, but that's just how the game works. I don't know why, but that's how it works. Most cars require about 30 psi, but like in this game, the tires won't heat up unless you have them down to like mid to low 20s. At least for road cars. There's some GT3s even lower than that. I have them sometimes as low as 16 in GT3 cars. Oh my gosh. Okay. It's like... yeah, turbo lag is pretty heavy. Still going, still going. There we go. Now we're in the power band. Now we are. It's basically like, in most of the track, it's basically shifting between first and second. And first is really low, and second's really high. Didn't even get to use third gear there. Nope, not third gear there. I only found the first. Short shifted there a little bit. Second's kind of low, but basically just keep in second gear the whole way around the track. It's one of the very few cars that you can do that, almost. I have to get in the third through here. I will. Whatever you do, do not go down the first without going into a corner. I probably shouldn't go down the first at all. And on the straightaway, obviously, I'm going to have to go into third. And then in the fourth, probably. Maybe even fifth. I don't know. We'll see. Don't go in the first, though. I try not to go in the first. Third there. See how many times I leave second gear? That was one, actually 3 in total. You pretty much keep it in second gear from here until like the chicane, after the chicane. You pretty much leave it in second gear. The power band's not always brilliant, because it's got all that turbo lag, but I gotta admit, the gearing could be better in this car. I might be able to adjust it, I'm not really sure. I don't want to shift in the corners. I did good on the first there, probably didn't need to. Oh, some gravel. Ooh, real oversteer into there. This car sounds pretty good. This pack in general, the cars sound really good. I have to say. Now, I can compare this car to the F40, and I can tell you right now, it's much easier to drive than that. The F40's brakes lock up really easily, and the car's pretty much fighting you the whole way through the corner. This isn't as much. It's just nowhere near as much of a handful as that is. At first I was struggling to drive it, but that's because the tires weren't really getting up to temp or anything. Now that they're up to temperature, this is actually a pretty good handling car. I have to say. Out real soon there. Woo, going wide. Let's see if I can get a better lap out of it than I had. You hardly leave second gear on this whole lap, except for the straightaway, and maybe a few other stretches. But most of the track you're in second gear. Which is strange. It's sort of, I don't know, I guess it's good or bad, but it's sort of bad because I can't use, like, I feel like going off some corners, first gear's too low, but second doesn't provide enough torque to the wheels. But still, it did a 2:11.1, which is a pretty good time. It's a pretty respectable time, I think. I think at F40 2:09, so it's barely slower. Well, it's a couple seconds slower, but this car certainly doesn't have as much power as an F40. So, that is one thing to remember. And it wasn't really the top of the line Ferrari like the F40 was at the time. So what car next? I might save the F2004 and the SF70H for last. But what other cars are left? So that leaves the 330 P4, which the 812 Superfast, and that's it. So why don't we drive the 330 P4? Because I haven't driven that yet. And what liveries do we have? Do we have any? We'll have some classic. They're pretty much all the same with different numbers. We'll use this one, number 20, I don't know. think they'll let some tire pressure out of it. Take it down to 25. It's a good baseline. Anything at 30, I've never seen a vehicle, except for like SUVs and big cars, that the tires will actually heat up at 30 psi. Let's go up to 45. Visibility is kind of nice. Car sounds pretty good. I know it has a V12. Again, I don't know if it's gearing's certainly a lot better than the 288 GTO. Car feels very light, very light. And if I remember, like, this is the car that challenged the Ford GT40 at Le Mans, and did a good job challenging it. But in the end, the Ford was superior. It took him a few races, but Ford did pull it off. But this is still a good car. It's a really beautiful looking car too. It could be considered a piece of art. It really is a piece of art. These tires heated up dang fast too. I thought because it was a lighter car it might need less tire pressure, but I think I might be wrong about that. Because they're already at the heat. It's interesting the way this car drives. It's a little different than the other Ferraris so far. It turns in really nicely. The reactions of it are so quick. But yet it doesn't really slide that much either. It's kind of a nice balance, actually. It might be the best handling car, I think, so far that I've driven in the Ferrari pack. Kind of out of the groove now. Darn. Again, you can't really get the full experience of driving it with the paddles, but it's still a fun car to drive, I have to say. I do get to go through all the gears, unlike I did through in the 288 GTO. And I always have the right gear for the right corner, too. Also a little more, the power band's a little bit better than it is in the 288 GTO, because it's not turbocharged. It's an older car. But the reason I'm really comparing it to the 288 GTO is mainly because that was the last car I drove. Because this is not really a comparable car. It's in a totally different time period. Totally different type of car. So they have a Ford GT40 in this game, they have this car. Now they just need that Jaguar. And they'll be set. They also had the Chaparral 2X around this time, if I remember right. Or sorry, that was the 2X, that's the Vision Gran Turismo car. The 2J, I think, or the 2D. Or actually both of those cars. I think the 2J was the one with the fans on it, and the 2D was the one kind of similar to this car, or the Ford GT40. This car's very manageable, I like it. I think I'll do one more lap here and shut up so you can listen to the car. thing I do notice about this car, sometimes if I brake really hard into a corner, it doesn't get a little bit of entry oversteer. But I don't know if it's actually not called oversteer, it's more rotation, I think. It's helping the car go into the corner. But I do get a little bit of slide sometimes if I get a little carried away with how hard I brake it into the corner. But it's still a fun car, and I think that makes it that much more fun. Because it does have limits, you know. Some cars feel like they just are kind of boring because they don't really have limits. They just keep gripping and gripping and gripping. This car, it does have a limit, but it's really high. And because of that, it's a fun little car. It's a fun car to drive. I shouldn't say it's a little car, but it is a very light car. And it did a 207, which puts it pretty much the same speed as a Ferrari 458. Or, I don't know, 458 with semi-slicks, I think I got like a 206 out of. With the standard street tires, I think it was like a 209. So it's somewhere between a 458 with street tires and semi-slicks. So there you have it. Now, we can just watch a short little replay clip here. I won't play the whole replay, because obviously that would be kind of boring to watch the whole thing, but this is a cool looking car. It's even got like an open top. Sort of like a Target top. It is a nice looking car. Spit flames out the back there. It's quite a cool sounding car too, especially from the exterior. Makes quite a noise. They really did a good job with the audio, and I know I keep saying this, but they did a good job with the audio in this car pack in general. And I think a great example of this is the next car I'm going to drive, which is the 812 Superfast. And I can say I've already driven this car before on Assetto Corsa, but I would totally not mind driving it again because it is an awesome car. 800 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, or actually 0 to 62 because it's 100 kilometers per hour. And it only weighs 1,500 kilos, which for this line of Ferrari is actually pretty light. Because I think if I remember right, the F12 Berlinetta was a lot heavier than that. I think it was like 1,700. And as a result, it was actually not that fast. Laguna Seca, Randy Popst lapped like a 138 at the F12 Berlinetta, which put it slower than a Corvette Stingray, which had a heck of a lot less horsepower. But this car has definitely been improved in performance. It has a rear steering system like the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, but I'll get into that later. Let's drive it. And the first thing you'll notice about this car is the engine sound. And as soon as we get onto the track here, you'll hear what I'm talking about. This is one of the best sounding cars, I think, on Assetto Corsa. It sounds amazing. And it revs to almost 9,000 RPM, too, which is just crazy. It's like 400 RPM higher than the F12 Berlinetta, I think. Because I think this is at 8,900 RPM, the F12 I think was 885. It just sounds amazing. The interior sounds really cool. Here, let me turn this up here so you can hear it. Track here and do a little bit of performance testing. Now, first thing you'll notice is this acceleration. Let's turn traction control off. Just listen to this car. Sure sets up a lot higher than the older cars do. It rides a lot higher off the road, but I can feel the rear steering. It's not quite as prominent as the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, but you can certainly tell it's got rear steering. And you can really feel it helping you into the corner a lot. Like if I try to get if I get a little overconfident going into a corner, Yeah, I think I better lower the PSI and the tire pressure, because I remember I had to do this. I had to lower it to like 23 in order for them to even get up to heat. I keep forgetting to do that. But let's give this a shot now. The gear shifts are just immediate. I think I heard it was like 30% faster on upshifts and 40% faster on downshifts. Those numbers could be completely wrong, but I think that's what Chris Harris said about this car. I don't remember. And whoever drove an F12 Berlina and said, I think it should use a little bit more power, because that car had 730 horsepower. This has 70 more. Which is crazy, as you can see. I'm having to wrestle it on the power there. Hopefully when the tires get up to heat, I won't have to do that so much. This car is just musical. The gear shifts, the downshifts are just amazing. And because it's got the rear steering, I can drive it into corners, I can drive it off of corners faster. It's just faster everywhere than any other Ferrari, or any other road-going Ferrari at least. Maybe aside from the LaFerrari, but at Imola I tested this car, did a 1:52.9, which is an astonishing time. It's only a couple seconds slower than the LaFerrari, but it's 7 seconds faster than a Ferrari 458 when I tested it at Imola, which is just crazy. It was even faster than a 488 GTB. It even has a DRS system apparently, because there's a little light that is flashing DRS. It's not flashing, it just showed up. There's 180 miles and 182. And I think I could break even later. I gotta admit, the steering is it's not quite as communicative as it could be. It's hard to tell exactly what the car is doing through the steering, but I can feel the rear steering working, certainly. They did a very good job with it on this car. It's not quite as, like I said, it's not quite as prominent as the GT3 RS, but I think that's kind of a good thing, because the GT3 RS almost felt kind of twitchy and a little too fast. Like I'd turn it into a corner and realize that I turned it in a little too soon because it just reacted so quickly. This car doesn't feel like that. It feels a little more natural, I think, than the GT3 RS did. I actually quite like the way it drives. Because it has rear steering, it's quite a lot more stable than that 488 GTB was, despite the fact it's got 140 more horsepower. This car's surprisingly nice to drive. It's a little heavier than the 488 GTB, but between the rear steering and extra power, it's certainly a lot faster around the track. And I think it even handles better, which just overall it's interesting. I never thought this car would be as fast as it was. I think this car's really blown me away. It just sounds amazing too. Alright. And this is the part where I shut up and do a really fast lap, or a decently fast lap, depending on how good of a driver you are. And yeah. Alright, here's the lap. Alright, well, I got on the power too soon. And I kind of spun it there. But that would have been... I think I could have gotten 204 out of the car. That lap wasn't perfect. But let's listen to this, what this car sounds like from the outside, because it is a really cool sounding car. So it sounds really cool, but now we want to go to the Formula 1 cars, which are both just insanely fast. I don't know, I'm starting to get kind of tired, actually. I don't know if I don't think I have the concentration power to drive a Formula 1 car right now, even on a racing game. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'll end this video here, and I'll make a part 2 to this, where I do drive the Ferrari Formula 1 cars at one point. I'll get to them, trust me. But right now it's just not gonna be the night to do it. I'm too tired. So I hope you enjoyed these reviews, these cars. I mean, not really reviews, but just sort of some first impressions, or some early impressions, because I have driven some of these cars before, but see you next time, and thanks.